It says we've been live for 25
Five waiting. Do we need to open
Wait,
Well, we have to get tripped up for Christmas. And
you're connecting to your live.
but the day before the election, I was in the Fox's area, Fox's on, and I'm going through every constituency area, Fox's on, and I'm going through every constituency. 150
It's working?
We will contest this result. The minute the fucker wins, not worried about it. No, every time we win, such Sherlock Holmes, isn't it? You know what I mean? But they were ready to, there was going to be legal challenges everywhere. They're going through every state and people were documented revoked, and I never saw a story of fucking die.
Testing, testing. Can you guys hear us? Does it work? Yeah? Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Do you want to trip me up? That pick me up there?
Yeah, that should be.
Ready to go.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Do you want to take this and do the introduction?
I have another one if you want.
Good evening! And I'm really sorry for anyone who's hearing that on the mic because they'll be deaf now. Welcome on a cold November evening, and thank you for joining us in Arthur's Bar, who have been very kind to host us. And tonight we're going to be going through private bottlings from public spaces as well. So we're delighted to have our very own Aidan talking us through it as well. And yeah.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, looking forward to a really nice tasting, and yeah.
Super. Thank you. Right, folks. Come. Says he's throwing it on the ground. There we go. I suppose let's start at the beginning. There's a little bit of housekeeping. Just in case that anything happens, the way out is the way in. So the way you came in is the way you get out. Toilets are here, and toilets are also downstairs, probably closer here. Other than that, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now, I will say that it's been really good fun putting this together. Really good fun, catch it? There's, I suppose, a few questionable statements that are going to come out, but one thing I will say to you is that never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Okay? And with that, we'll crack on. So what could be more Irish than the bar, the public house? So the Irish public house, more commonly called the pub, has been at the heart of socialising for many years. The pub itself has gone through many iterations in order to keep pace with changing societal needs. That's a questionable one. And to reflect the popularity of certain trends. Gladly, one of those trends that has remained in vogue and for some time has been our fondness of whiskey in all its many forms and guises and finishes. So tonight we're going to go through 6 separate tastings. You've also got a dram of the month. That's something we'll talk about later on. So we won't be doing any tasting notes per se, but I'd love to get some feedback from the floor. Being the person that I am, I said there won't be any tasting notes, but go figure. Some things never change. Right. Okay, so with that, we're going to crack on to number 1. Now, we're thankful to Kevin Adbrook, who can't be here tonight, for sourcing this for us. It's a West Cork Distilleries Spirit. Okay, so we're going to start with Sean's, as I said. Sean's Bar is in the Midlands in Athlone, and it is, bunny ears, regarded as being the oldest public house in the land. Brazenhead might question that, but like as I said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. The annals of Clonmacnoise, on a historical note, recorded the use of aquavitae for many centuries. Now, this is the 700th year of the Red Book of Ossory. I'm originally from Kilkenny, so I'm going to have to get that little shout in. So there's the first little question that goes. Now, in these annals, this is a good one actually, given the time of the year that it is, in 1405 AD, they recorded the death of Richard Mangrenel, who was the chieftain of Montrealis, try say that now with a skinful of this stuff in you, at Christmas time from drinking a surfeit of aquavitae. A surfeit, a vast quantity. He killed himself, he drank himself to death on Christmas Day. So maybe there's a lesson to be learned there for us all. When we run up to Christmas, take it easy. This one, West Cork Distillers. Okay, as you can see, lovely, clear, light gold, really long legs. And it was released in 2018 as a tribute to the monks who established themselves in the entire area at that time, around the 6th century. So the area of around Athlone and the lake itself has been populated going back as far as the 6th century and probably even before that. Now, I got the details about this one from Tim, a long-serving member of Sean's Bar. And Tim is a great character, I will say that. But if ever you get a chance to talk to him on the phone, get comfortable, find a nice comfortable seat, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee in your hand, because you ain't getting off that phone too easy. That's for sure. Now, if you want to lift your drink, first one. So it's the first one on the top left. Sean's Bar, single malt. It's called the Clonmacnoise. It's at 40%, so it's a good way to start. And I will warn you, this is the lightest of the lot. Any comments? So as I said, it has fairly decent legs for something at 40% for a single malt. It's quite oily, light in the glass. Any comments on the nose or the palate? For me, on that one, it's quite soft in the mouth. Now again, I'm not a professional taster, so this is just how it hits me. It's quite soft in the mouth. There's, on the nose, there's good caramel, good berry fruits, and with just a hint of vanilla. Now, you have to bear in mind the fact that we've been here for about an hour and a half, so we've got a lot of peat up our nose. And you'll probably find that yourself, that there might be hints of peat coming or pervading across. The one, just on a segue, is the very last one. That's a unicorn. And don't be too surprised if you get peat off that. Okay? Forewarned, forearmed. The length at the end is what for me is quite surprising. It's a mid-length finish, but it's very soft. The initial sweetness that we encountered on the nose and on the palate remains right out to the end. I call it a charming sipper. What would you call it?
It's definitely punchy for its percentage as well. You would think it would be a kind of higher ABV.
It's quite unusual. Yeah. But for me, when I looked at it, and as I said, I'm not a professional taster, not a professional in the industry, just like yourselves, just have a passion for it. It's got really, really good legs. And it's a charming drop. Now, with regard to this one, there's one thing that I am going to mention with regard to some of the samples that we have tonight. This one is readily available. So if you like it, you don't have to go to Athlone. You can just pick up the phone. As I said, get comfortable. Hopefully you won't get Tim, and you'll be able to get a bottle fairly handy enough. They're not crazy expensive. It's very affordable. But the crack that you'll get out of Tim, if you do manage to catch him on the phone, it's going to be worth twice the price. All right. Now, what we're going to do, ideally, is we're going to take the top three. So the next one is JJ Curry, and after that then is Christie's Bar. We won't spend a great deal of time talking about them. You'll be delighted to hear. We'll spend more time sipping them, sampling them, and getting your opinion. Okay? We'll take a break then. We'll take a break for about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and hit the second bunch, and then we'll do a wrap up. If that's all right? Everyone good with that? Yeah. Super. Okay. So, any further comments on Sean's Bar before we rock on, or happy enough?
Where do you think the dry finish go from?
That's a hard one. That's hard. Now, as I said, I have no deep knowledge of it, but the fact that it's a little bit dry, it's not. We've been told that it wasn't a very, very aged spirit going into it. So it is from West Cork distillers, and they do have their dunnage or their maturation by the sea. That might influence it. And I'd just like you to bear that thought in mind, or that particular point in mind, for the middle of the bottom row. Yes, sir? It's bourbon cask. It's a very, very standard blend. It's a single malt. Single malt, yeah. Anybody else? Right, I got off the hook fairly lightly with that one. Let's see how we go from there. Ah, well. There is.
It's almost as if there's no body.
Yes.
I hate to have to say it.
Yes. And that was my point with regard to it. I regard it as a charming sipper. It doesn't have a great deal of oomph. Do you know what I mean? And that's the great thing. And it's a great point, because there are some here that you might love, and other ones you say, not mad keen on that. And that's perfectly fine. And I love the fact that it's not that you're going against the trend, but you're speaking your mind. And you should always speak your mind. Speak your mind, speak your heart. All right? So we're going to crack on to number 2, if that's okay with everybody. So we started in Athlone. We're now coming across the country to the big smoke, as we say down the country. This is from the bar 1661. And I do have some notes here that I'll read to you from Dave Mulligan. But before we do, let's have a look at it. Now again, this one is quite special, and you'll understand why I'm saying it's quite special. We bought a bottle of this, myself and my wife Lorraine, and it got kicked to death very, very quickly. So we tend to like JJ Curry. All right, Claire? Right, so I'm just going to read you a couple of notes that we have here. So this release, it's very young. It's a 7-year-old single malt, Bonders edition, finished in Amontillado, Pedro Jimenez, and Fino sherry, with an ABV of 47.2. Now, for a 7-year-old to be down at 47.2, that tells its own story. The casks themselves are after mellowing it down. All right? This is where the fun begins. Dave gave me the following information in relation to its background. His words: as a long-term admirer of Louise and JJ Curry, we decided to do a once-off vatting of whiskey with her in order to A, work an exclusive collaboration Irish whiskey into one of her new cocktails, and B, please a limited release bottling of the said whiskey. Now, to choose the whiskey, we opted for 2 7-year-old single malts from different sherry casks. An Amontillado and a PX were chosen. They were blended, vatted, and recasked into a Fino sherry. So blended, vatted, and recast. Nothing easy about this baby. Okay? To add, as yet, an unexplored flavour to the spirits. Next, not content with just doing that, next, we worked this finished whiskey into our sliding doors cocktail, a mix of JJ Curry, rye whiskey, sweet vermouth, passion fruit, and bitters. Finally, we batched over 50 litres of the cocktail and put it into a custom Palo Cortado cask for an added dimension. So when you go to their bar, I would suggest you do as we did, have one of the measures, and then have the sliding doors beside it. Taste this guy first, and then taste the sliding doors. So you'll get some of the elements of one in the other. And there's this wonderful interplay in your mouth that Lorraine picked up an awful lot more of than I did, because she's much better palate than I have. Anyway, as I said, this is a tricky process to understand, but we don't make things easy on ourselves. So he's urging everybody then to come by the bar and sample it. So with that then, let's go to number 2. Now I did have the luxury of being able to call on the notes that I took from our initial bottle. So again, this is just me. Please feel free to have different opinions. So on the nose, sherry notes, some wood casks influences, definitely lots of dried fruit, stone fruits, dark sugar tones, and banoffee pie. Now I'm a slave to banoffee pie. So of course, when there's a hint of it, that's what I'll get. The palate. Good. So first things first, spices in a subdued manner, a crisp tingle across the palate, opening to a good fruity note. Then comes the dryness. Anyone getting the dryness?
Yeah. And it lasts as well.
Yeah.
It does last long, yeah.
Now again, when you bear in mind we're after stepping up 7.2%, there is a mass, for me, there's a massive amount of difference in just that small amount, and we've only gone up 1 year in aging. It's the complexity of the cask work that they've managed to put in there that gives us a completely different beast. Anyone agree?
I would have thought even more than 47%. A bit higher in
Yep.
percentage.
This is the thing. It does tingle. It kicks above the ABV, but that's a good thing. Okay, carrying on. As I said, the cask influences are coming through there. Really soft caramel elements displaying along the end. For me, the finish was dry. Okay, we got that on the palate, but the finish is dry. It's a good length of finish, and the tingle stays for some time.
And that ties with what we have a couple of people from online. So we have Ken saying lovely sweet taste and dryness, and then Gary saying look, lovely smell on the nose, very short on the palate. He said he would say it would be better for a little more aging, or yeah, so thinks it needs more aging.
Anyone get ginger?
On the, I didn't actually put it down there, but the pepper spice for me is a white spice, and there is definitely a tartness of ginger.
Yeah, like white pepper.
Sometimes when you get a peppery note from some whiskies, you'd be more inclined to say it's more like a soft black pepper, and then you have the white pepper, which really is like a slap in the chops. This for me is a black pepper, and definitely I would agree with you, the ginger. And then there's the lovely, from a balance perspective, I think it's quite balanced. Anybody else, any comments? I suppose the biggest question you'd ask is that, after your point on the first one, would you go along and buy a bottle? Yeah. Now, again, the good news is, if you feel that way inclined, the good news is that at the moment, there are some bottles, not a great deal. So if it does appeal to you and you want to start dropping hints for Christmas, now's a good time to do it.
In 1661.
In 1661. And even if it is a case that you make your way in, do hang around, grab a taxi, grab a bus in, and have the sliding doors and try it. It's well worth a shot, really.
What kind of price point?
Pardon?
What price point?
Price point on that one was €85. I'm nearly positive €85. For the original one, €45.
That's probably,
When we come down to some of the other ones, I'm glad that you're sitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were very careful bringing it to
Yeah.
this table.
So we're taking you now. Here's the good part. We're going to go to Kilkenny. Hey, we're going home. Right. So I promise not to say this, but sure, what the heck. We're going to make our way from Dublin, we're going to make our way to the ancient capital of Ireland and the home of black marble. Okay, so for anyone that's been to Kilkenny, if you look around pretty much everywhere on the stone flags, some of the old streets have stone flags, and from years and years of people's feet, it's kind of semi-polished and it looks like black marble. It's only limestone. That's all it is. And you'll always see these little white curlicues. They're like fossils for all the world. They're like fossils, but they're not. They're just flaws in the rock. Even some years back, they decided to praise Kilkenny's bygone days of superiority in hurling and put together three guys, one reaching up over the other like this, grabbing at a hurling ball. And it when you look at it, it looks a little bit messy. But you can see from all the years that people have put their hands on it, it's polished. It actually, there's parts of it that are grey and parts of it that are highly polished. Just one of those quirky things. But what's that got to do with the whiskey? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, the third one. So, this one is, this is very unusual. Okay? There's a huge amount of firsts here on this one, I'm delighted to say. Again, I got the notes from the launch that was held in Christie's Bar from Anthony. So I'm just going to read through those first, then we'll come back to the whiskey if that's okay. So this is from the press release. The bottle in front of you is a 6-year-old single malt, aged first in a first fill bourbon cask, AB1, and then recast into a second fill honey and bourbon cask for 6 months. Now, I was hoping to be able to show you a video clip, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to jack in. It's not Sean's fault. It's this, it just didn't want to play ball. But if you want, what I would suggest you do is just go in onto YouTube and put in Anthony's trek to 2 stacks, and it'll bring it up. Quite entertaining. And it's Brian is the guy who helped him source this. So I'll crack on with the notes here. So the bottle in front of you is a 6-year-old single malt aged first in bourbon cask and then recast into a second fill honey and bourbon cask for 6 months. Again, relatively young spirit. It's cask strength whiskey, so we're really umphing up. 56.5 as you can see on your mat. And we, along with our great friends and whiskey expert Brian Hennessy, aka the Whiskey Chaser, decided to do a collaboration with the lads in 2 stacks back in 2022. This was the first collaboration that was done by any bar in Ireland with 2 stacks. That's just the first of the firsts. After much sampling, we went with the honey bourbon cask for a few reasons. We wanted something different that hadn't been done before that really gave Christie's a unique edge. Okay? We also wanted something that would work well with a younger spirit. Now, there was a brave move. They were taking something 6.5 years old, not even 7 years, obviously, and put it into a cask that I had never heard of before. And has anybody else ever heard of a honey bourbon cask? There's a lot of honey finishes in the world of bourbon, but I'd never heard of it being used on an Irish whiskey before. There we go. So the honey bourbon added a lovely sweetness to the malt and rounded out the edges nicely. Because it's a 6-year-old whiskey, we were conscious of an element of youth that might come through, but the honey bourbon did a really nice job of adding complexity and character to the final product, and one that we are truly delighted with. There's still availability, you'd be delighted to hear, of this. And the great thing is that if you do make your way to Kilkenny and you do make your way to Christie's Bar, which I would definitely recommend, they have over 300 different whiskies, some absolute unicorns that you will not see in most other places. The guy who buys these whiskies is like Beardy Dave. Big tall chap, doesn't drink. Go figure. But Anthony does. So he will, for the right price, he assured me, he will crack open that closed press and he will open some of those unicorns for you, depending on how deep your pockets are. If you want to buy this baby, right, currently it's €85 for a bottle. But when you buy the bottle, you also get a pint of your choice. If you want to drink it by the measure, it's only €6.50. So it's quite considerable. So if you come into Kilkenny, I'm on my way. So if you come into Kilkenny, you'll most likely find your way to the centre. Yep. And it's literally just follow up along Patrick Street, keep on going, and it's on your left hand side. Yep. So we started in Athlone, then we came to Dublin, and then we made our way down to Kilkenny. So that's where we are at the moment. Okay, if you want to lift, and we'll shift some of the liquid. Again, sorry, age catching up on me. I have to wear glasses, guys. Now, oh yeah, a couple of interesting things about this one. What we've had so far today was triple distilled. This is double distilled. It's G&D spirit. So the guys in Two Stacks got their initial casks from G&D. Again, very interestingly, they thought that they were going to have, if you look at the bottle, which is well worth a peep, it says 280 bottles, or one of 280. That wasn't the case. So they had printed the labels, and then they discovered in the cask it was only 242 bottles. So just one of those little idiosyncratic things. So again, this is a little bit more on the dark old end of things. Without doubt, you can smell the difference. The heat's there. Bourbon jumping off the nose. Again, for me, tropical fruits, some malt. Lots of honey notes, quite soft for the ABV.
So we have a couple of comments coming in from online. So really, really good dram. A massive spices, pepper, lasting taste. Really well worth the price for the dram. And then the honey smooths out the taste, and then it's a sweet pepper finish.
Yeah.
So that one's definitely,
That's some good news for that one there. As I said, if you want to make your way to Kilkenny, €85 bottle, free pint, and you can drink it at the bar, €6.50. But I would definitely recommend, and I know I'm labouring this point, if it's a case you get to Kilkenny, the Kilkenny Whisky Guild have a number of different, they have 10 different pubs that you can call to. But without shadow of a doubt, there's two that I would put on my list. Paris, Texas, in town centre, and Christie's Bar. A little bit off the beaten track, worth the effort. Worth the effort to get there. Any comments?
very, very nice. Yeah, I'm trying to work out what that initial kind of deep kind of sour note is.
Yeah. One of the notes that I put down on that was that on the palate in particular, it was oily and chewy with orchard fruits. Pears to the fore. Anyone getting that? I know sometimes when you mention it, you kind of say to yourself, I know we've often been here. Oh yeah. Well, that's the power of suggestion, but there's no point in talking about, well, it tastes of plantain if you've never had a plantain. You know what I mean? So I had lots of chicken. Yeah. So yeah, definitely the peppery spices present right off the bat. Lots of caskwood finishes. Lots of caskwood notes. And the caramel on the end is very, very Moorish. For me, the honey bourbon presents as a kind of a caramel note. Again, on the end, the spices stay all the way out to the end. So, any comments?
If I had a bottle, it wouldn't last long, probably.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. Now, in fairness, Anthony would have loved to been here, but unfortunately, our initial date was the one that he was available for. This one just didn't work. I was also hoping to have Patrick from Origin Spirits, but he's currently in Where did he say? India, I believe. Yeah. So these guys get around. Okay. Pardon? Oh, right. Yeah. That's a good point, actually, yeah. Now, the one thing I'd love to ask is that it mentioned honey. Is there any kind of honey that hits? Is it clove honey? Clover honey? Is it a floral type of honey? Is it even manuka? Is it a dark honey? Because I know there's a million and one different types of honey that you could go to, and sometimes you say there's a citrus note there. But what kind of citrus note? Is it lime? Is it lemon? Is it orange? You know, so it's just something to leave you with, to have a think about. And you know, when you're sipping it, or if you're going to chase this bottle down, something to look out for. All right.
So, the honey bourbon barrel. What's that?
That's
I have to ask. What's that?
That's exactly as I touched on there earlier on. If you look at the likes of Jack Daniels, they do a couple of honey expressions. So that's pretty much, yeah. So we have a plan, as I explained to Lorraine there the other day. We have our son-in-law and daughter coming over to us at Christmas time. So they're staying with us for 2 nights. So the first night's going to be what I'm terming as the Lynchburg Express. So it's Jack Daniels, the bog standard Jack Daniels number 7. Then there's the honey and sweet, and then the other one is the rye and spice, and then the final one is a distillery select. So it's the number 2, they call it. So it's based on some of the guys that would have given their life essentially to the place in Lynchburg, to Jack Daniels Distillery. So the short answer, or the short long answer to your question is, I would believe that it's a honey finish that made its way from Jack Daniels across for that use. Now, a really interesting point about this is that that particular cask is in the bar in Kilkenny as a piece of furniture. Go figure. No, it would have been a case that, well, yes, I would say yes. So when they were creating the cask, they would have primed it with some sort of honey in order to get the sweet notes out. So you'd have to ask yourself, was it pre or post firing? Because I think if they put the honey in, then drained it out, and then fired it up, all you get is burnt sugars. So I would imagine it has to be after the charring process. All right. So if you'd like to take a break now, we're at coming up on 8:10. If you want to take a 15-minute break, and then we'll reconvene. So if we are back here, bums on seats for 25 past, how's that? Yeah. Let's do it. All right. I'll just take this off from you here. Oh, okay. I'll lift the volume. Yeah, the mic here is.
As we're getting rowdier,
So, yeah, this is only going to work for the people at home. So what I'll do is I'll actually raise my voice. Sorry about that. I should have lifted it up earlier on, or even shouted at the back.
I suppose your voice would be well rested. You haven't been shouting in Croke Park.
No, not for quite some time. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Hot mic.
Yeah. Yep.
Hi all, welcome back in person as well, and welcome back to our folks online. So just a quick kind of housekeeping and now 40-person in-person tasting in Winds for Dingo doing the Wheel of the Year on December the 4th, and that should be opening on Friday. You should all have got your emails there, so that's December the 4th, and then that's a Wednesday, and we also have our AGM, which will be December the 12th, a Thursday in Winds as well. So perfect, thanks very much, and I'm going to hand it back over to Aidan.
So, thank you. Thanks very much. Does that sound a bit better? Yeah. Are we good? Yay! Promise not to start singing or anything like that. Anyone that knows me knows that I can't sing. So, okay. I did mention, I went around the floor and said it to everybody, so just in case I missed you, the bottles are here on the shelf. I'd urge you to have a look at them at least. Remember the contentious points that I raised there initially? On the Sean's Bar bottling, it does say the oldest bar in Ireland. Now, it's written down, so it can't be a lie. Okay. On the Christie's bar, remember we said there's 242 bottles? Well, the labels were printed a little bit early, and it says 282 on the bottle. So, never let the facts get in the way of a good story, as we said. Just before we do kick back off, anyone that knows me now knows that I work in a library, so I have access to a fantastic range of books for research. Okay, this one, as you can see, or maybe you can't, it's quite yellowed, so it's been around a while. This one is 1,000 Years of Irish Whiskey by Malachi McGee. At the end, I'll just show you this. This is what the experts say. Oliver St. John Gogarty, there's no such thing as a large whiskey. Who can argue with that? James Joyce, the light music of whiskey falling into a glass, an agreeable interlude. And my favourite, G.K. Chesterton, if an angel out of heaven gives you something else to drink, thank her very kindly, then pour it down the sink. What can we say? Sound words, wise words. Now, in the first half, we spoke about the availability of the spirits that we're going to sample. Sad news is, guys, and girls, that sounds very misogynistic. This one, I'll hold it up like a trophy, because it is. This is the Revolution Bar. It's a green spot, single cask release. As you can see, beautiful box, beautiful presentation, and the undeniable green spot heritage. This one is available. You happy you're sitting down? €480 bottle. Now, I'll let you be the judge as to whether this is, I'm going to let you be the judge as to whether you think this is worth €480 or not. Okay? It's currently available. That's the good news. I ain't going to be drawn on that. No how. Right. 480 euro. 480. Cheaper twice the price. Yeah, right. Anyway, let's crack on. So thank you for coming back, and to our people at home, thank you very much. It was brought to my attention that I'm not repeating the questions that are coming from the floor, so I promise to fix that. Okay, so number 4 on the list. We're off to the town of Waterford. Actually, the first city. The first city of the country. No, that's actually, you can Google that one, honey. You can Google that. So, right, Revolution Bar. This one is a 13-year-old. Okay? It is a green spot by name and name only. Okay? Everybody that knows green spot knows that the spot came about as a way of denoting the age of the spirit in the cask. Typically, green spot was 10-year-old. This is called green spot. It's 13 years old. The story behind this came from the bar, so I'll just give you a quick heads up on that one first and then we'll crack into it. So Jim Gordon is also known as Flash Gordon, surprise, surprise, kindly supplied the information relating to the thinking behind this one-of-a-kind and completely unique green spot whiskey. This is a single pot still, single cask number 7740. The bonding date was the 17th of the 1st, 2007. It comes in at a cracking ABV of 59.6%. Remember earlier on we were talking about the difference of 1 year and the elevation of the percentage, the difference that it can make to the spirit. This one, for me, it's completely unique. This is the first time that Middleton took a cask green spot expression from start to finish in a bourbon cask. Everyone knows here, green spots, yellow spot, red spot, blue spot, they all spend time in a sherry cask of some type or other. Not so this baby. So it's a green spot in name only. All right? The rest, as opposed to other, there's no use, as I said there, no use of the specific sherry cask influence in the bottling. The process was overseen by Brian Nation, who's no longer with us. He's gone to the States for this signature on the bottle. You can see it. Hang on. Pass this one around, please. Now, when I say he's no longer with us, that means he's not here in Ireland, but he comes in every now and again. Correction there. Right. So the good thing about this was that when I went down to speak with Jim, he's a very, very funny guy. Not as funny as Tim, but a very funny guy nonetheless. He said that when Ger Garland, and didn't specify the other name, one other member from Middleton Distillery, so you can speculate all you like, he was very tight-lipped about it. So there was Jim, Ger, Christoph, his bar manager, and one other member from Middleton, he was keeping that close to his chest, sat down with 8 samples, 8 cask pulls to go through, looking for this. Okay? Jim said the very, very first one was this one, and it was anchored in his head that job done, we'll sample the other just to be nice, as you would. But number one it was, and nothing else raised his head above this. Number one, as I said, clear favourite. Now, there is, as I said, some availability of this one. Not a great deal, believe it or not, because there wasn't too many in the cask. Sorry, just while I'm passing around the bottle, I'm going to pass around the box as well. This is sublime. It really, really is. The workmanship is incredibly good. When you feel the box, there's no coarseness to it. Everything about it is sweet. It's just remarkably good. And for those of you here that know Sergio Florides, the editor-in-chief of the Irish Whiskey magazine, he did a Greek Ampeliastos finish. The actual presentation case was somewhat similar to this, so the brass plaque that's on the front is the only difference. Can you still hear me down the back, guys? All good, super. Now, let's crack and see on and see. Colour, nose, palate, everything about it. It's elegantly balanced to me, to my mind, to my palate, to my nose. Now, because it's almost 60%, you can expect a little bit of a pinch in the nostrils. Does everyone get that? But yet, it's not massive, it's not monstrous. It's very manageable. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Cool. Again, just the obvious things. Dark old, long oily legs. Now, some people actually call them tears. What's your preference? Legs, tears?
Legs.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about the legs and how it can carry itself. So we're leg men here. Right. Now, just some of the other notes that I took on this one, because when I called down to Waterford, I did have a very, very fine measure of it because I was driving back. There's no way could you take a full shot of this and get back in the car. You'd be praying all the way home that you're not going to be stopped. So I reckon you'd be in trouble. You'd be walking for a while. So please, I just want to make you aware of the fact I urge everybody to drink responsibly. Don't go drinking and driving. It will only end in tears or legs or whatever. Now, yes? Yes. The question was in regard to the bottling from Waterford, is it still available for sale? Yes, absolutely. And I would suggest, if it's the case that you are going to make your way down, ring and ask for Jim Gordon and tell him you're a member of the Irish Whisky Society and you're only coming because of the tasting. He might just do a samurai sword and chop a bit off. Worth. You know the old saying, if you don't ask, you'll never get it. We did actually negotiate a bit of a reduction on that. Not a great deal.
You're saying was it available as a shot?
By the dram.
Oh yes, absolutely. Now I don't know how much it was because very kindly he gave me the shot for free. Now it was very, very, and like he called me out on that, and there was a little bit of banter about Kilkenny v Waterford and all the rest going on, but hey, whatever. We got a reduction. I was willing to take in the neck. One for the team. Oh, by the way, everybody knows that Waterford is the home of the Pla. It's the home of a very, very, very unique green spot as well. There you go. So if it is a case that you're looking to get this, I would suggest making the call. And if you're going to go down, yes, to have it behind the bar, it is available. As to exact price now, I really don't know. I'd imagine you're probably looking in the range of about between 30 and 40 euro, maybe. For a shot, I would imagine. Yeah. The bottle itself, 480. The shot's probably anything from 30 to 40 euro. Because it's a very, very, very unique, one of a kind.
It's a lot softer than a normal kind of grain spot and stuff like that. Yeah, very smooth.
So, any comments from the floor with regard to this particular one?
Just saying that it doesn't feel like a 59% when you drink it first. It's quite smooth and
Just for the folks at home, the comments coming off the floor is that it doesn't present like 59.6%. It drinks a lot better than that, more soft. And that's why I said in my notes that I took on it, I felt that it was far more balanced and really, really does such a great job. The effort that they put into it was well worth it. And again, for something that's 13 years old, to get it at that ABV, that's quite strange. You know, normally you'd see it down from there, but look.
So we have from online, very good. My favorite yet, sweetness lasts long, apples and vanilla.
Good. Yep. Good point.
I think it's more fruity than the Chateau.
Yes. So just from the floor for the people at home, we've had a comment that it's a lot more fruity. Is that correct, Thomas? Than the Chateau Montelena. Now, again, we tend to get quite a lot of fruits from the spots. Leaval Barton, the standard green spot, Chateau Montelena, Quail's Gate, and the Leaval Barton. This one doesn't have the benefit, as we said already, of the sherry cask, but yet has every single element of the DNA of the green spot, and it has it in buckets, skip loads.
Oh yeah, so we have toffee, apple, and orange peel coming through.
Yeah. Earlier on one of the other tastings, we mentioned about the difference on how the white pepper as opposed to black pepper comes across. In this one, I think it's more of a black pepper than a white pepper on that. And I also had that, clove Yep, nutmeg, cinnamon, check, check, check. Everyone agree?
Yeah. So we have from online, smells great, lovely with a drop of water. So if anyone has that to try it, just
Yes.
open it up. They said they're debating the price or, at what it's worth or whether
Yeah.
it's worth the kind of 480, but they said, yeah, the best one yet that they're doing.
Agreed, agreed. So if wherever the bottle is at the moment, if you can just have a look at that, it'll tell you how many bottles were drawn from it, from the cask. Not a great deal, because it's at full cask strength. There was no dilution at all.
How much was it when it was released? Because it's 480 now. Was it
480 on release. So they've had this in behind the bar for a couple of years now, but it's still available at the original price. But having said that,
174?
174. So there's the answer. There is 174 bottles from that particular cask at just 13 years. So there was absolutely no attempt to dilute it for material benefit, if we'll call it that. It's true cask strength and truly a gem. I believe it's one of the best green spots I've ever had, and I'm a big champion of the green spot. For me, the Leeville Barton is my go-to. Now, everyone has their own, but I think Lorraine will attest to the fact that when we were only going together first, talking as they say in Australia, we had Lorraine down to Kilkenny and we cracked open a bottle of green spot. That wasn't a good idea, lads. Wasn't a good idea. Yeah, so I think Lorraine was warned off on the green spot for a while. Now, if everybody is happy enough, what we're going to do is we're going to rock on to number 5, which is the center of the bottom row. Try and keep a little bit in your glass of each one if you can. Yeah, I know. I always feel like a fool saying this, but if you can, if you can, by all means, or even just at the very, very end, just run your nose over. Even if it's an empty glass, it's fine, because you'll have enough of the esters there to be able to give the information that you need to get, final confirmation of any of the smells that you got initially. So the next one is, sad to say, you just cannot get it.
But we have it.
Yep. And there's a story attached to that. Like, if you can look at the end of your glass, this is like the end of a bottle, circular. Every single element of our trip around the country with whiskey is circular. It's stories. And it's all about starting somewhere and coming back. And when we get together and we talk, we're a nation of storytellers. We talk about things that we love, that we're passionate about. And if you get a chance, you get 3 or 4 people together and say, geez, I had this whiskey, I had this one. And boom, conversation explodes and everyone is just sucked in. So that's the power of our storytelling ability. That's the power of the spirit and the love, the ambitions, the enterprise that goes with it, the 1,000 years, as we saw in Malachi's book. It's incredible when you think of the amount of effort, of blood, sweat and tears, of hard graft that goes in to create something as sublime as this, right across the board. And it's not just here in Ireland, it's the same everywhere. If you read any books about whiskey, if you talk to someone, you take a trip over to Scotland, the same thing. You'll sit down in a bar. I recounted to Ali a story of when I was involved with pipe bands. We went into a place called the Pot Still in Glasgow. Wasn't wearing my kilt, you'd be delighted to hear. Went in and came up to the bar, spoke to the guy. He didn't look like he belonged in the bar. He should have been on a rugby pitch. A giant, absolute giant. And I said to him, I'd like some whiskey, please. He said, well, you're in the right place then, aren't you, boy? Oh, well, look, what do you see? Lots of whiskey. What do you expect? It's called a pot still. And on the shelves were anywhere between 360 and 420 white label bottles that came directly from the distillery. He said, what kind of spirit do you like? I don't say whiskey. So I gave him a direction and he gave me a flight. And one of those was Akantoshan. And he told me, again, this is the point I'm making. It's all about the story. He says, you know what Akantoshan means? And quite menacing guy. I said, no, I'm sure you're going to tell me. Oh, of course I am. It means the corner of the deal, you big ticky. And then with that, we had the Akantoshan. And I fell in love with it. But it's more the story that lures you in than the actual. Now, of course, if it's rubbish, you're not going to drink it. Stands to reason. But the story is what starts the journey. So, as I said, this one is as a result of what West Cork distillers called the Bartender Project, based in Cork, 1922. Or, sorry, 2022. Well, not 1922. Sorry, correction there, guys. So, this all comes from Chris Hennessy. Chris is now in Paris, Texas, but at the time he was in the brewery corner. Chris was involved he was one of the finalists. So as a net result of, let me get the bottle. It says very rare. They're not joking. The cask was created for the winner and for everyone who partook in it. So everybody that partook in the competition that were finalists got a case of this. It was only released to bartenders, which is something I'm going to come back to at the end. I'm going to pass this one around. Have a good read through the label. It's really interesting. So, as I said, specifically, and everything that I have here on this came from Chris. He gifted us 2 bottles. Imagine that. From his own box. He said, there you go. No problem at all. That's the testament to his generosity. So this bottle was created specifically for the West Cork Distillery cocktail competition, which was organised a few years back. The whiskey itself spent the first 5 years in first fill AB1 casks. The cask number was RC1102, and then a secondary maturation for 2.5 years in virgin American oak casks. It was bottled at a cask strength of 54.7% ABV, and this is completely unique expression as it is not created for general release. As I said, it's just specifically for the Bartenders Project. You'll never see this on a shelf anywhere except in a bar of one of the 6 finalists. That's the only place you'll find it, and here, of course. We're very fortunate to have access to 2 of the 300 bottles that made up this entire release, courtesy of Chris. So I think a round of applause is definitely in order for Chris. He did mention he did mention that it was an unexpected gesture from John and the management team from the distillery, and it was designed to pay homage to the hard-working bar people who make our leisure times in various locations as enjoyable and as seamless as it is. When we go into bars, sometimes we forget, and I'm not trying to curry favour with Sean, but the point is that we sometimes forget just how hard-working the men and women in bars actually work. Sometimes thankless, because you go in, you know that there's a good pint of Guinness, or there's a good whiskey, or there's this, that, or the other, and it's an expectation that we have. But we need to remember that these people are away from their families and their friends at the most unsocial hours, just to be able to put drinks in front of us. Top class drinks, top class food. So I think we need to remember that. And while Sean is here and his colleague, let's give them a big resounding round of applause. Get up and take it out. Get up and take it out. Right. Any comments about this particular one? Nose, the body, the palate, the finish?
It's chewy. Enough, yeah.
It's like the what's that Werther's original?
Yeah.
Dark chocolate.
So for our people at home, some of the feedback coming off the floor there, it's like Werther's Original, dark chocolate, and it's chewy.
Yeah,
Would everyone agree?
On the texture, I get like a chewy or like
Hint of dryness? Okay. Now, a lot of the dryness, and I would agree with you on that, a lot. I said it's a mid-gold in colour, slow legs. So when I say slow, they're quite long. They're quite slow to fall down along. Lots of wood notes initially, followed by, and this is on the nose, malt biscuit overtures. The proximity to the sea. This is another thing to bear in mind. The proximity to the sea, as I mentioned earlier on, from Sean's, gives almost a strange umami flavour, a hint of the sea. Now, again, on the nose, at the ABV, it presents above, to me, what we got from the green spot. And that was much, much stronger.
I'd agree with that one, yeah.
Yep.
It definitely is more present, I think.
I'm going to put that down to the fact of the virgin American oak. It tends to give an element, and it's been there for 2.5 years, so it does tend to produce a drier texture. Now,
What's the cask in on this? What's the cask?
the cask number?
No, the cask.
The cask, so it was AB1 for 5 years, and then 2.5 years secondary maturation in a virgin American oak. So again, it's a brave move to put spirit at any age into virgin American oak for that length of time. It's going to impact heavily on it. So, yeah. The more I know is that the more strength that's coming through, the more spices that's coming through. And it is, it's quite dry, quite nutty, a lot of almond nuts. So again, that's just the way it presents to me. Maybe do you have other opinions off the floor? Any comments offline or online there, Alec?
No, I'm just asking there, yeah.
The bartender's project, what was it? Was it a mixologist?
Yes.
competition?
So I was hoping to be able to show a clip of what it was. It welcomed in, so the only conditional was that it had to be a unique creation. It had to include West Cork distillery whiskey. After that, then the sky's the limit. You could put old socks into it. Now, obviously, nobody did. So there was 6 people called forward, and the winner was originally, or he works in a bar in Cork. So it was presented from Cork, and the winner was in Cork. Some of the creations, if you look, again, there is a video clip that you can look at, and it's just called the Bartender Project 2022. It's available on Facebook. So you'll actually see at about a minute 34, you'll see Chris Hennessy going through his, wearing a very colourful apron, I have to say. Some of the other guys are dressed up to the nines as if they're going to be pulling pints or slinging cocktails over in the Shelburne. But Chris came in, t-shirt, very colourful, full-length apron, and he was there chatting away, doing his biz. Very impressive. So another clip well worth having a look at. But the whole story behind it, it was the distillery's way of recognising the hard work that bar people put in. And I think we just need to remember that, be mindful of it.
Out of mad curiosity, did Chris put together a drink based off this whiskey?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. No, not off this particular one,
Okay.
but of the West Cork. And I've never asked him since, but I should. Did he make a cocktail? Because he's in Paris, Texas now, and they have access to a huge array. Again, it's like Searson's insofar as that they have a full selection of the Middleton Very Rare.
Oh, wow.
Not too many bars have.
Do we have a couple of online comments as
Yes.
well? So not as smooth as the green spot, but heavy spices and very nutty.
Yeah.
Smells like a tagine, which is a
Oh,
lovely kind of.
nice one. Nice.
Yeah. And then we have there's a nice bitterness to the taste, and it's nutted. So that seems to be kind of carrying
Yeah.
it through.
So definitely the common trend there, the common theme is the nuttiness. And I think that's because of the dryness it presents in this way. Okay. Everybody happy enough to move on?
Yeah.
Now, I will say, once again, this one, the middle one, before we leave it, West Cork Distillers, priceless. We can't buy it. It was a gift from the distillery to the bartender project, but we're lucky enough to have it here. So count yourself in an esteemed quarter, really. The last one that we have is, it's from Imshire. Imshire was a restaurant that very, very quickly earned, and now I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but there's a reason behind it. Imshire was based out in Selbridge. It was a husband and wife team came together, and they very, very quickly moved from Bib Gourmand to Michelin 1-star, and even quicker to a Michelin 2-star. One of the very, very few restaurants in Ireland to hold 2 Michelin stars. It's insanely hard to earn 1-star. It's completely mental to get to, and in the speed and pace that they gained theirs, it kind of broke the mold. Anyway, the whole purpose behind it was that Origin Spirits worked together with Imshire with a very, very defined idea in mind. This is what we want, but we don't want it specifically just for drinking. We want this to be part of food pairings that we're going to put together. So his good lady wife took care of the front of the house, won multiple awards for that. And he was a very, very young guy. He worked in the restaurant, in the kitchens in the restaurant, to curate insanely good foods, all locally based. So that was the key term here, all locally based. So they contacted Patrick from Origin Spirits and said, can you create something for us that's going to be completely unique and that we can work with in our food spreads? Patrick said yes. So this is where the fun begins. So a trinity of contributors who together created a complete unicorn of a release. Imshire restaurant owners tasked Origin Spirits, who together with Killahora Orchards produced this one-of-a-kind point-in-time whiskey. I tend to use that term point in time quite a lot when we speak of whiskies, because everything that we have in front of us here, some of them are replicatable, but some of them are point in time. When they're gone, and gone for good. Now, sadly, the last bottle of this sold out quite recently. It was €145. It's quite reasonable. And I'm just going to show you the wrapping, the packaging. Just so that you can see the difference between the green spot and the Imshire. Hello. Here you go. Agus an Bosca. Right. So the Budale and the Bosca are doing the rounds there now. Okay. Just going to crack on with this. Origin Spirits is the home of the Curragh whiskey, which in this case was matured in a kombu charred cask. This novel approach imparts a very different flavour of the sea to the finished product. And not content with this, Patrick Shelley used Killahora apple ice wine from Cork to impart yet another layer of complexity to the finished product. And this was released in June 2022, so it's still relatively new, but it's already gone. And it was released at cask strength of 55.7% ABV. The main concept, as I mentioned earlier on, behind this release was for it to be used as a food pairing with dishes in the restaurant. And it's important to note that Imshire, as a restaurant itself, is no more. And the availability of this particular bottling is likewise. Sad, but there you go. The release is completely sold out, so please do enjoy. Okay. Just a note before we really pelt on to the taste and end. The Cork kombu cask finish. What is it? What is kombu? Kombu is a type of seaweed that grows readily around our shores. So what they did is they took the finest contemporary AB ones. Okay, so that's AB is American bourbon, first fill, top quality. Everything about this smacks of quality. The single malt is triple distilled before being aged in the bourbon casks, as is the norm. Okay, they then finish the whiskey for 3 months in a unique American virgin oak cask, which has been charred using the dried kombu seaweed to give it that almost peat-like, but not peat-like sense, or smell, nose, and palate. So it's actually a huge waft of the sea, and it's very, very unique. There is only one other distiller that I'm aware of that has taken a similar approach, and that's Blackwater Distillery. So maybe do your digging on that, and I'm almost positive, 95% positive, that he used this in a poaching. So,
Sorry, how does the ice wine come into account?
so they actually got the casks of ice wine so when they create the ice wine, they rest it in a cask. They then, obviously, it sounds like I'm being a bit blasé. They emptied the ice wine out of the cask and then let the kombu finished seaweed rest in that, just to impart that next layer of flavour. So it's triple casked, if you wish. So you have your American bourbon, you have the virgin oak charred with the kombu, and then the Killahora ice wine. So Killahora is from Cork. If you get a chance, try the Killahora ice wine. It's quite different.
And the Cork, all the whiskies are seaweed based.
Yes. Yeah. So they tend to have 2 different types of seaweed. So to the best of my knowledge, it is the kombu is the original one. They have a kombu at cask strength, but they also use their second release was wakame. So it's another seaweed that grows readily around the coast of Ireland, and they harvest it, dry it, and do the same process. So it's a novel approach. But Peter Shelley, if you Google Origin Spirits, you'll get the contact details for Peter. He will be only too delighted to have a chat with you about it. We spoke with him that day that we were in Glendalough. So he will, if he wants to speak with you, or if he has time to speak with you, he'll drop the phone, drop what he's doing, and he's only too delighted to fill you in. Now, any comments?
It tastes like oysters.
What?
That's not pleasant.
Again, this is a divisive one. You'll either love it or you'll hate it. I personally speaking, I won't say I love oysters. I'll eat them.
It tastes stronger than 55.
Yeah. Sorry?
Is this double distilled?
No, this is a triple distill. Triple distill. Yep. So there was only one double distill tonight. No, sorry, Liam. Sorry? It was this. Now, that's a good question. That's a good question. But I can tell you where it was finished. It was finished in Cork, but as to where the original spirit came from, he's very tight-lipped on that. So it's kind of like there's a lot of non-disclosure clauses for distilleries when they sell on spirit. Very few of them will actually say, well, it's G&D or it's Cooley. But you have West Cork Distillery is another huge producer of spirit for the industry. I'm sure you'll know that much better than I will. So as to where it came from originally, I couldn't honestly say hand on heart, but I do know where it finished, in our glass. Now,
Massive bang of iodine on the nose.
yes. So straight away, the iodine would remind you of the peated elements that were I suppose, that we're more familiar with in the Scottish releases. But this is
Phenolic kind of, so it doesn't have the phenol quality of Asian.
bingo, bingo, and that's the difference.
Aromatic kind of, like phenol grabs it. It's a softer approach, but it's very kind of medicinal.
Yes, I'm going to bring that one back to our colleagues that are at home, savouring this at home. One of the audience just made the point that it has the elements of the peated Scottish whisky without the phenols. Am I right? And it's more iodine based and more medicinal.
Yeah, so I would say it's kind of like medicine, but without the smoke you would get in the Iowa whiskey, for example.
Yes, yeah. So it doesn't have the peated smoke, but it does have the medicinal qualities. So the iodine is coming through there. And for anyone who would have been lucky enough to be by the sea anytime recently, if you get, it's almost like dilish, a very, very light, bright green seaweed. If you can pull off some, just clean it with your fingers, because there might be a bit of sand on it, and chew it. You'll get the medicinal, you'll get the medicinal notes there then. Yes?
Like macadamia.
Oh, okay. Now, I'm just going to have a quick look at the notes that I took on this one. Again, please excuse me, they're on my own notes. So, colour, amber gold, long legs. On the nose, toffee, dried fruits, dry nuts. There we go. And charred seaweed, umami. The palate, the initial hit of the sea, straight off the bat. Not the hit of peat, hit of the sea. It's like a peated iteration, but different. The hints of coffee, salted caramel, dark chocolate, and this the fruity notes come in from the finishing cask, but not until you're well into it. Anyone agree?
So we have some thoughts from online. So
Yep.
there's an unusual burnt taste, but pleasant. Very long aftertaste, and one of the best tonight for me. Then there's a lot of chewing in it, and then it's interesting, more complex than I thought it would be. Trying to place the notes, but quite like it. Tastes like more, which is the
Yeah.
best.
I think it's like baked apples with Murphy's salted caramel ice cream. You know Murphy's the
Yes.
Dingle ice cream.
So Thomas has just made a point here that it tastes like Murphy's ice cream with salted caramel
Yeah, and with on top of baked apples.
on top of baked apples. I like your style. I like your style. Yeah.
Doesn't do anything by half.
No, go big or go home. Okay, so if everybody is happy with regard to that, is there any other comments that anybody would like to make? Just be. Yes. So we're going to look for a vote, everybody. So and please feel free to put your spec in on this one online as well. So we're just going to deal with the top three first. So that is Sean's Bar, the JJ Corrie from Bar 1661, or Christie's Bar, the Honey Bourbon. 1, 2, or 3. Hands for number 1? No hand. One hand. Hands for number 2?
Your favorite?
Okay. And hands for number 3? That's a resounding win for Christie's Bar. Oh, the cats!
And we have three trees online.
3 trees online, so...
Sorry,
right.
and as a dog that was hard to say.
3 trees. Tree, tree.
Very long ago.
Okay, so now we're going to go to, so that's clearly number 3 from line number 1. So number 1, 2, or 3 on the second line. So that's the green spot, the limited release, or the I'm Sure Curragh. So for the green spot, show of hands. I think that's a winner there, guys. Number 2, the West Cork. Small few hands. And for number 3, the I'm Sure. Okay. Yeah. So clear winner there is the Revolution Bar.
So we have 2 is online, and they also said that's a harder road to judge.
Absolutely. So now we're going to pitch. We're going to go for the championes of the night. So we're pitching. We're going to pitch the Christie's Bar against the Revolution. So votes for Christie's Bar. I think we know where this one is going, guys. So
Yeah, so we're doing number 3 or number 4 choices.
yes.
Yeah.
3.
So for 3 and for number 4, which is the Revolution. We even have 2 hands going up in some cases, right? So a clear winner tonight then would be.
Christie's online as
Oh,
well.
cool.
It's a device of
Yeah. Now, so I think it's fair to say that when you compare Christie's Bar at €85
Yeah.
and the Revolution Bar at 480, yay! I think, no, look, let's take the price point out of it. A good whiskey is a good whiskey. A great whiskey is a great whiskey. And fair to say, Jim did a great job on this one. So, Bullabus for Jim. Right, I'm just going to do a quick conclusion, a quick wrap up. Now, so tonight has been in no way an exhaustive review of all of the bar releases that have been made to date in Ireland. Far from it, in fact. We sat in the Palace Bar last night before we came home, and we looked at some of the releases that they had. Now, primarily the reason why I didn't take something from the Palace Bar is that most people would have been in the Palace Bar. These are a little bit off the beaten track. That's primarily the reason why we went where we did. So, as I said, if you were to take a trip around some of the pubs in Dublin, you're going to find some amazing bar-only releases. So, might I suggest that the next time you call into your local bar, ask them if they've ever done a bar-specific release, and more importantly, if they have any of it left. Do they have a drop? Get them to pour it for you. So, the very well-known whiskey emporiums would have had many releases, as I hinted at there about the Palace Bar. And there'll be many a tear shed once the last of the bottle was consumed. Palace Bar, Long Hall would have done Powers quite recently, and I know there was tears shed when the last of that one went down the pipe. Anyway, but fear not, my friends. I believe we're in a golden age of the golden liquid. Many more wonderful releases will make their way onto top shelves very soon near you. And once they do, it's your mission, should you choose to accept it, as whisky ambassadors, to spread the good word, just like the monks of Lochrie did in times of yore. Now, you see what I mean about the start, the finish? There we go. There's been a wealth of books written on the topic, and our own Fionn O'Connor is currently working on his Creator Book project. I'm sure he'll forgive me for the pronunciation, that sucked. Which will have a book release as the culmination of the work. Finally, may I thank you all for your time, your attention, and for your ongoing contribution to the Society. Your input is invaluable, and the continued success of the Whisky Society is dependent on your presence. So, just a little bit of Irish, not shocked in the Gaeilge. So, Nín Yart, the Curly Kayla. There's no strength without unity. So, give yourselves a round of applause. Yes, before I peel away from it all, everybody in the online packs would have received a dram of the month. This is from Bushmills. It's a unique release with the Celtic Whisky Shop. We'll show you. Ali is just after passing it through the crew there now. So please have a look at that. It is currently available in the Celtic Whisky Shop. They've always been great supporters of the Society, and they regularly ask for members of the Society to go to the judgment panels when it comes time for the choosing of the best whiskies of the year. So we have a very, very good relationship with them. And if you're looking for, as I say, a drop of the brown or a drop of the clear, call into Celtic Whisky Shop, and I'm sure they'll take care of you. Okay, that's me done, lads. Thank you. They're still available, yeah.
So this is 53.4.
On the Revolution? Yes, it is.
Who did Cottage whiskey make it?
It was made by Bushmills.
Okay, take more release.